Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I definitely didn't intend for this flight to be our first moon orbital mission. It definitely didn't happen. This was always intended to be just a Kerbin orbit and grabbing some of this science. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, that's enough of that. So we're going to go ahead and bring these guys down. We did have a thrust to weight issue on our ascent stage that meant that we ended up burning a lot of our DV on ascent that I did not necessarily intend to. Of course, we want to head for the moon, but now is not the time for that. So we're going to go ahead and just descend here. I'm going to burn us retrograde until we are somewhere around 20 kilometers here. Good enough. Now, we have a lot of DV left in this. There's no doubt about that. Not enough to do our moon orbit that I wanted to do. It would have been fairly close. Like, this rocket is very, very close to being able to do that. But we're just going to hop on down here and say that this was largely a successful test flight. We need to adjust the thrust to weight on that first stage after the side tanks burn off. There's no doubt about that. We're a little on the heavy side. That is for sure. I'm not sure how this will handle with a non-gimbaling engine, but we'll see. So I think that's the plan. And these lads, we'll just bring them on home. So we'll just... Oh, that's in Kerbin's Shores. Yeah, I don't actually care about stopping when we're in a new situation. I just want to head down to the atmosphere. Perfect. And now we'll hold retrograde here. Ah, I didn't separate out our parachutes. Drogue chutes should go here. Do we want to attempt to bring back this stage? I think we don't. Honestly, I kind of feel like we just burn off a bunch of speed here. Or maybe we wait. Yeah, I think we'll wait. However, I do not want to wait too long. I want to be able to ditch this in a fairly safe manner, which is going to be interesting. Our heat shield is, of course, here. So that's something we need to consider. We're currently using our engine as a heat shield, which is surprisingly effective in KSP. Like, shockingly so. But that's okay. We will go ahead and physics warp here until we get a wee bit lower. We can see our periapsis height is dropping pretty dramatically as we speak. And that's, of course, perfectly fine. It can do that. We're still accelerating, but this is expected at this altitude. We're definitely losing energy, though. Hitting 13 kilometers for our periapsis. Fine. Oh, we should grab this material study. This is a flying high material study. We absolutely grab this, and then we close this door. We make sure that we are collecting everything. Yes, this is now inoperable. That's okay. So let's see how the aerodynamic re-entry profile of this looks. This is, of course, longer than our intended re-entry, but we'll see. We are decelerating already. That's a good sign. That is a very good sign. Of course, the pomegranate here is intended for re-entry. It does have a built-in ablator. Not a great one, but it has a built-in ablator. And I'm figuring that we'll burn off this here relatively soon. I'm going to move this up here. We'll manually stage it, I think. I haven't decided if we're going to try to recover this stage or not. It kind of depends, right, on just how slow we get going with our parachutes. So pretty soon now, we're going to want to probably do a bit of a re-entry burn to slow ourselves down, burn off somewhere around 700 of these meters per second. I mean, even just keeping 100 in the tank for a landing is kind of much, if I'm honest. But we're doing completely fine here for right now. Jeb is holding the attitude with no real problem. You can see here he's just chilling there pretty much. I think there's a tiny bit of yaw and pitch going on there, but not much at all to hold us steady. So that's good. That is very, very good. Just keeping an eye on that right now. We're slowing down, but not as much. I mean, I would say not as much as I'd like to see, but we're still at 36 kilometers up. I'm going to go into radar altitude, though. That's a little bit more useful at this point. We should probably switch over to surface retrograde. You can see we're currently basically engulfed in a fireball. Not seeing any heating effects right now. No temperature gauges. That's a little bit surprising to me, because we are cruising. Although our speed is not at an unmanageable point. This is a good re-entry. So far, no burn necessary. On our previous models, we definitely would have re-entry burned by now. That said, we do have a pretty powerful SAS in this. Ah, there we go. There's a temperature gauge. Okay, so I'm going to do a re-entry burn here. We don't need to burn that much off, though. Like, we're already fine. I'm going to keep burning, though. And technically, we shouldn't be using a vacuum-optimized engine to burn here, right? This is not efficient, but I think it's okay. Like, we're slowing down dramatically. And we still have 600 meters per second left in this thing. I mean, this is not intended for this flight profile, but it's fine. Like, at this point, we definitely don't need to be continuing to burn. And I'm not going to. SAS can now come off. Like, I don't believe that re-entry burn was ultimately even necessary. Drogue shoots out. And the question is, do we need to burn more fuel for the purposes of lightening our weight load here for the parachutes? I have no idea what our parachute speed is going to end up looking like. We'll go ahead and drop the main chute here. And this will slow us down pretty dramatically. And then we'll just use this fuel to cushion our landing if necessary. For now, I think this is okay. Looks pretty good. I'm going to physics warp forward a bit until our chutes deploy. 3 kilometers, and chutes will start deploying now. Drogue chutes bringing us down to 50 kilometers per second, 50 meters per second, 40 meters per second. I think it's fine. The main chute will deploy right about now. There it goes. Main chute pulling us down to about 12 meters per second, continuing to decelerate as the atmosphere still thickens as we approach sea level. So I think a cushioning burn here is necessary. So I think we should probably go ahead and do that. Just currently wondering what's going on with the recording. It appears to be dropping a few frames. Hopefully it's not too bad. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring this on down. Oh, you know what? I think I have Unity open. That would probably do it. Been working on a project, and yeah, that seems to interfere with KSP. Okay, let's go ahead and cushion our landing here. Down to about 9 meters per second is completely okay. Sploosh. And we tip right on over. No, we don't actually still need to be burning. That's not a thing that needs to happen. Okay, we're going to go ahead and actually EVA Bob here. Bob is in the water. Okay, Bob, go ahead and let go, and let's see how exactly this works. Can you swim over this way, please, Bob? Thank you. Excellent. And I want to currently restore the Science Junior. Excellent. And then Bob will swim right on back over here and grab on and hop back in. And we'll grab our 2.2 science from the water. Excellent. So we'll go ahead and recover that. And while this is loading, I will tab out. And yep, I did indeed have Unity open. Yes, I would like to save my changes. Thank you very much. Excellent. So with Unity closed, theoretically this should no longer drop frames like that. Fingers crossed. KSP is of course also a Unity game, so... 12.6 science. Not great, but it'll do. And Bob and Bill both advanced to level 1. Sure. Let's go ahead and check in mission control, see if there's anything we want to do here. Actually, a satellite in specific orbit of the moon is absolutely something that I think we want to do. It needs to have an antenna and can generate power. Must be fully assembled when launched. Reach the designated orbit. We need a mystery goo unit on the satellite and a thermometer. But that's okay. I think we'll go ahead and accept that. That's a good advance as well. And I think we'll do that before we take the Free India to the moon. But, well, maybe not, actually. I want to do a little bit of experimentation here. I want to drop off the swivel engine and see just how it feels if we put a Reliant engine on there instead. That is more thrust to weight. And let's take a look here. This, of course, has to be merged together like that. 1.78 thrust to weight ratio with this off. 0.84. Okay. By the time these burn off, it should be pretty similar. So we're going to save this and launch this. This is a simulated flight. I just want to see how the maneuverability and the thrust to weight ratio in the low atmosphere is. Theoretically, with those fins and the advanced SAS, we should be able to have decent control in the lower atmosphere without gimbaling, but we'll see. This actually doesn't seem to have saved the staging. Okay, that's fine. And up we go. Are we thrust limited right now? No, I don't think we... Well, these are... Since when are thumpers gimbaled? Okay. Well, that's new. We're going to see how we do tipping over here. I mean, with the apparently gimbaled SRBs, it doesn't feel awful. The real question is, how does our attitude control look once those fall off? That explains why our attitude control was so much better with them. I did not realize that thumpers are now gimbaled. That's new from last time I played. Okay, off those go. Yeah, we're definitely having some wobbling. We knew that that would likely be the case. Now, I'm not currently doing anything to counteract this. If I were to try to counteract this, I would, of course, just stick this on prograde for now. And it seems to be pretty okay. Let's switch to orbital velocities, of course. This is kind of a stress test at this point. And we're not high enough to switch to it, but that's fine. It seems okay. I like it. So the Reliant here seems to be good. I'm actually going to switch the Flight Engineer to be like over here, just because I feel like it's constantly over things. Okay, so let's go ahead and revert that as we said that we would. Excellent. And then I think we can launch this as an orbital flight. However, quick question. What do we actually... Oh, we do have to go on an orbital spacewalk for this. So that does mean that we can't do these two at the same time. However, I am still going to open up the France Comsat Mark 1. And we are, of course, going to need to have a mystery goo unit on this. Now, this does need some changes. There's no doubt about that. We are going to have these tail fins be quad tail fins. And let's look at our center of mass compared to our aerodynamic overlay. That's probably going to be a little bit much, but we'll see. And we know that we need some additional power on this. So let's put in a rechargeable battery pack there. And I'm also going to upgrade our solar panels to quad solar panels. That should help pretty dramatically. Okay. Once again, I'm going to do a quick launch here. And we'll see how exactly this feels. This is simulated. So let's get it on up there. We haven't even looked at what kind of orbit we need to get to the moon with, so that's something we'll need to do. But let's get out of here. practically springs off the pad. I'm not sure if we're full thrust limited on these SRBs or not. So let's assume we're not going polar orbit here, and let's make our way over this way and see how it feels. Obviously, we can't lock prograde. Okay, we're struggling a little bit with this. So let's just hold position here until our SRBs are off and see how it feels after the SRBs. Those will be done shortly. We're definitely struggling a little bit on the attitude. Not shabby. We're a little bit excessively stable, but it's steerable. Mostly. It is mostly steerable. Yeah, I think it's acceptable. So we'll go ahead and revert that. And there are changes done to those two rockets. Fantastic. Now the only thing that we need to decide is whether we want to explore the moon or position a satellite first. And to decide that, I'm going to take a look at what kind of orbit around the moon we need here. Now, because we have pilots for the other flight, having a comsat up here isn't super important. This is a largely equatorial orbit. That's not too bad. It's actually a decent orbit. I would try to make it maybe a little flatter. And I'd like to have a polar orbit at some point as well, but I think that's okay. I think that's fine. So, with that there, and of course our current comsat is kind of a stopgap measure, right, over Kerbin. I would like to have that be a lot higher up in its orbit, but ultimately we're going to leave it the way it is until such a time as it is a little bit more high-tech, let's say. So I think we'll go ahead and we'll do the actual moon rocket here. Now, I do want to look at our delta V numbers on the Free India Mark V. Our DV here is not the greatest. Of course, if we look at this, it's about 5K. I think just having the additional thrust to weight ratio here is going to help us pretty dramatically. Of course, we need to have this here. Now, that's 1.78 with the Reliant compared to the Swivel having, if we combine these together, 1.68. So it's more thrust to weight, for sure. And I believe that the Reliant... Does the Reliant go through fuel faster as well? Let's check here. Fuel per second is... We'll call it 7.1 and 8.7 versus the Swivel's 6.1 and 7.5. So yeah, the Reliant consumes fuel faster as well, which will mean that it will burn through this faster while having the thumpers attached. It's still not great for the thrust to weight, that's for sure. But let's go ahead and launch this in a non-simulated launch, and we'll see how much DV we have when we reach orbit before we determine if we're just going to high orbit or if we're going to the moon. I want to have a budget of at least 1,200 DV when we're in orbit, if we're going to go to the moon. At least. Higher is better. Like 2K is more than enough. 1,200 is kind of bare bones. Roughly, what, 800 to get there, 200 to get into orbit, and then 200 to return. Something along those lines. It's... That would be a shoestring budget. But we'll see. We will see. For right now, of course, it is time to get these guys into orbit. So, off we go. We're going to get ourselves a little bit of speed here. And as we accelerate and get our apoapsis on up there, we're going to wait until our time to apoapsis is maybe around 30 seconds. Yeah, probably somewhere around... Ooh, that's some shimmy going on. I'm not a fan of that shimmy. I'm not a fan of that shimmy at all. I'm counteracting it manually here. Okay. Seems good. Or good-ish. I think that this is mostly just due to an overabundance of control right now. And Jeb, can you please lock Jeb, can you stop this? Jeb, can you stop? We weren't having this issue before, Jeb. Can you stop, please? Thank you. Now get back to prograde. Jeb. Jeb, why are you waiting until the non-experimental flight to do this? Can you please stop? Thank you, Jeb. Okay, I got it under control. That was exciting. Jeb is, still learning, we'll go with. Okay, so let's get ourselves up here. Of course, our prograde marker is moving. It seems like Jeb is much better at locking to prograde than he is at maintaining stability. See, if we switch over to stability assist here, which I actually want to do because I don't feel like we're high enough up or moving fast enough. So we're going to switch to stability here, and we'll switch to orbital velocities here as well, or well, orbital mode. I forgot what I was going to go with there. I was going to say something. Oh, I was going to say that Jeb seems to be better at prograde than stability assist, but he's actually doing a great job of stability assist here right now, so that's fine. So we're going to burn out our first stage here in about another 900 meters per second, and we are approaching 50k in our apoapsis. I definitely want to get a little bit more than this. Once we hit about 65k, I'll have Jeb switch over to prograde. Actually, I'll do it now. So get on over there, Jeb. We've still got about 30 seconds of burn here, but we can make it up to space. Yeah, this will be fine. We'll just go to about 80 kilometers, and we will save any additional DV. Okay, so let's go ahead and get ourselves our maneuver node here. It'll be not that, but something along the lines of this, which should be okay-ish. No, not... I wanted to move this. No. 0. Thank you. I wanted to move where we were doing this burn. Okay, sure, that'll be fine. Okay, so this is going to be... We actually need to burn this right around now. So we'll just position for that. Jeb, can you stop this turn, please? Thank you. Lack of gimbaling really coming back to bite us here, but that's okay. We'll have it in a moment. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely still lacking some thrust to weight here. Or not exactly thrust to weight, but just DV in general. So here's the thing. If we were already in orbit, then I would say this is completely okay. Like, this is 100% fine. We'll see what our actual thrust to weight, or not our thrust to weight, rather, but our DV ends up looking like here. Because we're going to be on a pretty tight budget for a moon orbit, I think. Do we have to be any particular altitude? No. Okay. That's fine then. So we are going to be in orbit momentarily here. We're just sticking with the maneuver node. We have just hit our apoapsis. So that's fine. And we still need another 300 meters per second, yeah. We can do a moon flyby. I'm not so sure about an orbit. We'll have to see what DV costs end up looking like. This is going to be a tight budget. We already knew that, of course. We knew that this was going to be tight. We should probably start upgrading our side boosters at some point. Okay, we are in orbit. I'm going to save that last 10 DV. So that's 862 meters per second. That's going to be very, very tight. Let's do a little bit of planning here and see what we want to do with this. So that is not what I wanted. We're not going to do that. I wanted to... No, I don't want to do that. I want to move this position. There we go. Something like this. Probably a little later than this, actually. But we'll see. Yeah, definitely later. Something more along the lines of this. This gets us this flyby. Now, hypothetically, that right there is 868.2 meters per second. So we're going to need to adjust this down for sure. Yeah, I think we're just lacking the DV for this right now. That's okay, we'll just have to rethink this. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to take this to in-space high over Kerbal. And we'll just dip up there, something along the lines of this should count as in-space high. And we'll use our science for that. So we'll grab our in-space low material study. There we go. Excellent. And we will go ahead and collect that. And we'll have Bob EVA. And we will have him let on go. And he will come on up over here. And restore the Science Junior. And come on back. Nope. That was the wrong button. Hit B. Hit B. There we go. I can hit B! Congrats. I feel so proud of myself. Okay, so we need to burn this basically now. It honestly doesn't matter when we burn this. I just want to get up to in-space high, which I can't remember what the boundary is for that. We'll just go up to around 1 million. That'll be probably plenty. So we'll push that up. And then, of course, we're going to have to burn it back as we approach. Because we're going to be approaching pretty quick here. That should, in theory, be okay. So we're going to just take this up to about 1 million meters apoapsis height. I know for a fact that this is more than enough, but I just want to, you know, make absolutely sure. There we go. Close enough. So we've still got 435 meters per second left. So what I'd like to do is, once we come back, do a bit of a radial retrograde burn here. Not that radial. This radial. Excellent. We'll do some retrograde, and actually it is this radial. Never mind, I'm a moron. We already knew that, of course. And we will pull the node back out. We have 435 meters per second to work with here. This is just underneath what we've got. So that is a little bit more than we can handle there. Let's go ahead and bring this to around 20 kilometers. And that should be a pretty safe re-entry. Excellent. So in the meantime, we will, of course, warp our way up over here. And we'll get into in-space high. There we go. There's our in-space high. And we will go ahead and grab our mystery goo observation. We'll keep that. We do need to be retrograde. And we'll grab our materials study. We'll keep that. And we will store both of these. There we go. Now, we do know that we already have our... We already have our in-space low, our flying high, and our flying low data, at least up to this 1.0 threshold. So what we can do here is we can close the doors, we can have Bob EVA in-space high, he can then let go, and then head on over, like so. He can restore the Science Junior, and then he can conduct a materials study. Excellent. And we will keep that. And then we'll open the service bay. And we will also restore the mystery goo containment unit. And we'll observe the mystery goo. We'll keep that. And we will close the service bay and close the Science Junior doors. And now, as long as we don't lose those on re-entry, we should be able to get the science twice. Fantastic. Get back in, Bob. Bob? Get back in. There we go. He didn't want to get in. Fair enough. We're going to position for the maneuver here. We know that that's going to be right about here. Excellent. And this is going to be a 32-second burn. We will go ahead and warp to next maneuver. Whee! Okay, so we know that we need to burn this at T-minus 16 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and bring them back yet this episode. It'll go a little long, but that'll be okay. So we're going to want to burn this at T-minus 16, so we will warp until there. So, right about now. And off we go on this burn. Got some nice in-space high science there, and we know that we need to rework the Free India if we want to actually have this be an orbital craft. We definitely need more ascent speed. There's no doubt about that. That first stage is underpowered. It needs to be cranked up. So we can see here our periapsis height and apoapsis height are both falling due to this radial retrograde burn. Excellent. And let's just get this as accurate as possible. Close enough? Close enough. Okay, now we'll just sit surface retrograde. I do think I will burn off these last 8 meters per second. Boom. Like so. And then we will go ahead and eject off that stage. Off over that direction. Yes, I still haven't separated these drogue chutes in the VAB. There we go. Okay, so let's get this re-entry, shall we? Let's see how this goes with just this module. It should be fine. This SAS should be more than capable of getting us down relatively safely. So we will physics warp 4x here. We have very little mass that we're attempting to return. The thing that we hope here is that the heat shield is actually able to protect our elements up here. That's the concern right now. We are, of course, dropping pretty quickly here in terms of our speed, or rather in terms of our altitude. This is a pretty aggressive re-entry. I'm going to go back to 1x here as we approach the dangerous portion of the re-entry. And we're decelerating pretty well here. Of course, we have nothing to burn. We used it all. And we're coming in pretty aggressively, but that should, in theory, be okay. We can see here we're about 40 kilometers above the surface in radar altitude mode. And let's see, orbital info. I'm wondering where exactly my pitch and yaw went here. I think I managed to turn it off, and I can't remember how to turn it back on. Okay, well, should be fine, I think. We are under 2 kilometers per second now, and we're 33 kilometers above the surface. So that is great. Of course, most of our speed is horizontal, so it'll take us a while to hit the ground here. We can see that according to Flight Engineer, we're about a minute and a half from hitting the ground. But we're slowing down much more speedily now. We're absolutely fine. This trajectory is good. In fact, this whole lander system seems to be very solid. We've got plenty of SAS to make this happen, to hold our attitude. I don't think this is an issue. 24 kilometers above the surface, and we're moving at 1.3 kilometers per second. It's fine. There's no issue whatsoever here. And we didn't have any heat bleed through. I still don't know how that happened. I think we were maybe slightly off axis or something on that re-entry where the Science Junior overheated. But no, this is great. Even with the nerfed drogue chutes, absolutely no problems. I'm actually going to wait to deploy the drogue chutes here. Do we even need drogue chutes? Is my question currently. We're going to keep the drogue chutes as a safety measure. But I'm just wondering if our main would be sufficient. Yeah, our main absolutely would on its own, I'm pretty sure. So this is just the main chute. I have not deployed the drogues. And for right now, I'm not going to. Just going to do a little bit of first science here. So we'll go ahead and physics warp towards the ground. Hello, clouds. Goodbye, clouds. Okay, we're still moving pretty quickly here. The main deploys. And I did send out the drogues in a bit of a panic there. We were approaching the round very quickly. So if we wanted to do just the main, we probably would need to raise the altitude of that. Nonetheless, an interesting result, and that should get us a good amount of science from the in-space high. And we'll go ahead and hit the water. Sploosh. And we didn't even tip over. Excellent. And we'll go ahead and recover this. Yeah, that worked very well. So we're going to need to rework that first stage, but I'm very pleased with the second stage and the re-entry stage. I think that's wonderful. That first stage definitely needs help, though. We should probably... That was actually more science than I was expecting. We should probably look at... we know that the VAB is fully operational, so we can actually look at doing some sort of asparagus stage structure there. Lower the amount of fuel in the center core and move it out to the sides. At any rate, that is something for next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.